From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, it's become a trend for more and more black women why they are going natural when it comes to their hair and why one stylist is glad that it's happening. And a new life for an old theater. What's planned for a historic building in Hendricks County? Chris?
Topping our lineup, getting federal help to pay for college is more important than ever for families during the pandemic. The unique efforts to get more people to apply for that money and why filling out the form will be getting easier. Now, police drones have started responding to actual emergency calls. How the first agency to use them says they are making policing safer and freeing up officers to respond faster to other situations. Well, connecting with children during the pandemic, the positive message for fathers during this time.
And now at 5:30, February is Black History Month, and tonight we are putting the focus on the evolution of hair practices in the African American community. Our Troy Washington is sharing how things are changing as industries start to learn the cultural connection between protective styles and healthy hair.
We grow up with this difficult relationship with our hair when it shouldn't have to be. We grow up with it because we have these experiences where you put a relaxer on and it burns so bad and they're like, just wait it out a little bit longer so it can get straighter. Or, you know, your hair falls out. Like, this is really not good for me. But it's ingrained. It's like a culture. It's a schedule that we're on. You know, every 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it is what we do.
Determined to restore her natural curl, Victoria Smith went natural. She blogged about the journey to stay focused and even started her own hair care line to help others venturing down the same road.
It's like black hair grows. We just started with a really bad foundation that was cracked.
For some, starting over isn't easy. Going from straight hair made possible with the help of a relaxer back to kinks, curls, and coils can be trying, but the evolution in the process can be rewarding.
Movements like the Crown Act, to me, it's like finally we have something to go off of. And the big part about it is there's a lot of major brands that are playing into that and helping to elevate that message.
The Crown Act protects from discrimination because of hairstyles, which, believe it or not, sometimes that type of protection is needed.
Black women are 1.5 times likely to be sent home because of their hair, which obviously that has nothing to do with talent and why you were actually hired for the job. So if these workplaces are having issues with braids and twists and things that Black culture, that's how we grew up. I mean, I can't help, this is how my hair grows out of my head.
To Smith's point about the experience being unique, it took me 9 years in the news industry before I worked up the courage to wear braids as a protective style, just because when I started, that wasn't the norm.
It truly is magic, you know? And so we should embrace that. We should have people that are advocating for us to be ourselves.
Little girls are no longer growing up afraid to wear their natural hair. That's because times are changing and leaving room for authenticity. Today it's becoming more common to see curls, braids, and other natural styles in new spaces, and it's now viewed as professional. Working for you, Troy Washington, WRTV.
If you'd like to learn more, we have a link to the Classy Curlies blog and this story on the WRTV app. Kevin.
Amanda, look who dropped by. Perfect timing for Rory Gregory to visit my home studio here in Hendricks County. What's interesting, she's a small dog, obviously. If you have a small dog in Bloomington or down south, maybe you shoveled the yard so they can get out and kind of cut across the yard as you had 4 to 6 inches. I want to thank Ryan Black for sharing this picture last night at the height of the snow coming down. Certainly rates approaching an inch per hour. It looks a little different in Bloomington this evening. And this is out in Putnam County where you didn't get nearly as much snow, generally ½ an inch. 26 in Bloomington, 20 in Peru. Temperatures the next several days will all be grouped together, staying in the low 30s. The wind isn't too strong, that helps, but wind chill temperatures are in the teens. Let's talk about tomorrow. Snow develops in the afternoon. Again, accumulating snow anticipated. Temperatures no warmer than about 23 or 24 in most spots. And accumulation an inch with isolated spots maybe up to 2 inches. Chris.
The White House is ramping up vaccine supply and putting a focus on equity. The federal government is increasing its weekly supply to states from just over 8.5 million doses to 11 million. 1 million of those doses will go directly to community health centers, at least one in every state to start. Now, these centers mostly serve people living at or below the poverty line. Mobile clinics and retail pharmacies are also getting vaccine supply to make sure all Americans are reached. Now, as we see new variants of coronavirus pop up around the country, doctors are raising concerns about reinfection rates as well as protection from vaccines. In South Africa, researchers found 2% of people who got COVID again were infected with the new variant. Doctors remind people that having been infected once is not enough to prevent someone from being infected again. And they've also found the variant from South Africa specifically may not hold up well against the vaccine.
It is less efficacious now as far as acquiring the disease, but it seems to hold up as far as getting the severe disease where you end up in the hospital.
Now, many health professionals, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, agree that is not enough of a reason to not get vaccinated. Both Dr. Fauci and Dr. Edgar Sanchez at Orlando Health say right now vaccines are our best defense against variants.
It seems like getting vaccinated you may still get the virus, you may still transmit it to others, even get mild disease from it, but getting that severe disease where you end up in the hospital, even our current vaccines seem to work well against these type of variants.
Now, even after getting vaccinated, it is important to continue taking all precautions. Right now, many states are not tracking or looking at possible cases of reinfection. Kaiser Health News found less than a dozen states are actively monitoring for reinfection. CDC guidelines advise states to investigate possible reinfection when someone tests positive for COVID at least 90 days after the first infection. But experts say the U.S. lacks the capacity to handle this type of genetic sequencing needed. All right, we do have more to get to in our lineup. Getting federal help to pay for college is more important than ever for families during this pandemic. The unique efforts to get more people to apply for that money and why filling out the form will be getting easier. Getting help to pay for college is taking on even greater importance in this pandemic. Currently, the number of people who have filled out the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, is down 10% compared to this time last year. The National College Attainment Network says it is down disproportionately for lower income students.
Students have been taken away from the traditional supports that they have, whether that's reminders and general awareness of, maybe a school counselor or an access advisor from a community-based organization coming for assembly or visiting English or civics classes to talk about going to college and the steps you need to take.
Groups are getting creative during the pandemic to raise awareness about the importance of filling out the FAFSA so you can be considered for federal money, including loans and grants. One hosted a drive-in night for information. There has been a focus on setting up more appointments for virtual help too. Now, something else that could help is making filling out FAFSA a requirement to graduate from high school. Currently, Louisiana and Illinois require it. Texas will for the class of 2022, but there are other states that are considering it as well.
The frustration is those who could benefit the most from the aid are those who are least likely to complete the form. Probably because many students are in schools that are low resource, that might not have enough school counselors or outside community-based organizations available to help with awareness or to help students through some of the trickier questions on the form.
Since Louisiana started requiring students fill out the FAFSA, completion rates went from around 55% to more than 70%. The National College Attainment Network says it's not 100% because you can opt out after you've been advised about the form. They have seen about a 2% bump in college enrollment. In 2 more years, we'll have a better sense if the requirement is leading to more students graduating from college. Now, completing the FAFSA will get easier for everyone starting in the 2023-24 academic year. Congress recently approved changing the form, eliminating some questions that should make it a faster and less intimidating process. Now, still ahead in our lineup, calls for police reform nationwide have one agency now using drones to respond to emergency calls, the benefits they say they are already seeing. Registration for spring sports is happening right now, and Stephanie Stone's looking at the recommendations to keep kids active but safe from COVID.
I want kids to play sports. I want kids to exercise, but we do still need to do it safely. And that may depend on where around the country you're located.
Dr. Tanya Altman, a Los Angeles area pediatrician and spokesperson for the American Academy of Pediatrics, has been and continues to be an advocate of keeping kids in school and keeping kids active. But she's also the first to say it has got to be safe.
We know anything outdoors is safer than indoors. So ideally, your kids would be playing a sport outdoors, still distanced, separated from their teammates. So that might mean they're just doing conditioning and not yet competition. And they're wearing masks as long as it's a sport where you can wear masks.
In most areas of the country, the transmission rate is just too high to play inside. But that certainly takes a lot of activities off the table.
If you have to do a sport indoors, it really needs to be non-contact, distance, wearing a mask, not very many spectators in the room, and following all the precautions that we can. You know, keeping that team together in a cohort, maybe even testing them before.
If your son or daughter is into wrestling or something that's a close contact sport, you may have a little bit more time to wait than somebody that's playing softball or baseball or volleyball, sports that we can kind of control a little bit better and make, be safe.
That's John Ang, the executive director of the National Alliance for Youth Sports.
We're doing basically what we can do, which is to follow the CDC guidelines. Everybody is calling us on a weekly basis, our organization, saying, can we start up? And of course, we can't say, yes, you can start up. We're doing exactly what they're saying.
His best advice is to follow what's happening in your local community, your local government, which is ultimately taking direction from the CDC. I'm Stephanie Stone, reporting.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. Now, some areas could make summer school mandatory. Atlanta Public Schools is floating the idea to help make up for learning loss due to virtual school. It would be specific to students who fell behind, but even summer school might be virtual with some in-person learning. Nothing official has been decided yet.
An old theater is getting new life in Plainfield. The town council there has approved a plan that will eventually reopen the Pruitt Theater for the first time in more than 15 years. The town acquired the old theater on Main Street in Plainfield 3 years ago and restored its historic marquee. Plainfield will now partner with Keller Huff Restaurant Group to reopen the Pruitt as a restaurant, lounge, and live event space. The Pruitt first opened in 1927. It was later renamed the Village Theater before it closed in 2005. Kevin.
As you know, Amanda, so far we have not been setting any daily record temperatures. It's just that we're consistently so far below average at this point, and we'll continue this for a foreseeable future until further notice. Let's say that, because there's no sign of a break in this pattern for a while. No breaks in the cloud cover, although a little brighter, as you can see to the north. We may see a little sunshine as we get to Friday. Temperatures coldest in Illinois, 15 in Champaign, northwest Indiana in the teens. Gary's at 16, and even to the south, temperatures along the Ohio River, upper 20s. Generally speaking, let's talk about the wind chill temperature, what it feels like. Feels like 17 in Indianapolis, 13 in Lafayette. When we get the combination of our coldest overnight lows with a little more snow, I think we will push these wind chill temperatures well below zero. 25, that's the number tomorrow. Snow develops mainly in the afternoon hours with some light accumulating snow expected. Should be an inch, maybe up to 2 in some spots. Winds out of the northeast at 15. Here's your snow developing. Notice the pink as you get closer to Cincinnati, the Ohio River. That could be some freezing rain mixing in there right now, forecasting that that stays south of our viewing area. But if you're trying to go toward Louisville or Cincinnati, just be aware of that being an issue. During the day tomorrow, winds out of the northeast 15 miles per hour make it feel colder. Thursday, between weather systems, temperatures, they'll be in the 20s, the lower 20s. And as we move beyond and head toward the weekend, there's the first single-digit high temperature for the weekend. We'll see some snow Saturday. Right now, too early to say whether it's just kind of a glancing storm system or we'll see accumulating snow. But anything we continue to add just ensures that our temperatures are very, very cold. We just argue about how cold. Well below zero expected on Monday morning. Chris?
Well, with Congress focused on the impeachment trial, small businesses say they're hurting and they need more help to stay open. 3 out of 10 small businesses say they won't make it through the end of the year without additional financial relief. That is 9 million businesses, according to a Federal Reserve Bank survey. Now, the impact is even more significant on minority-owned businesses. 8 in 10 say they are at risk of closing. Data from the Paycheck Protection Program showed white business owners got relief earlier than minority owners. Meanwhile, many homeowners are also nervous about the upcoming end of forbearance programs. Data firm Black Knight Mortgage estimates more than 1 million households will have their mortgage payment delay program run out starting in the spring or early summer. Now, the Federal CARES Act from last year allowed people to defer payments for up to a year. Cities across the country are answering calls for police reform, banning controversial tactics, even slashing police budgets. But one agency says it is using drones to earn the public's trust. The department tells Amanda Brandeis they are deploying the technology in a way no department has done before.
911, what is your emergency? When Chula Vista police get a call for help,
You can hear the urgency in it.
Agent Matt Hardesty is often the first to arrive.
Many times before the call is actually typed and entered into the dispatch center.
In just 2 minutes,
I can see things from above. I can set up perimeters. I got a map system.
We looked at it differently. We wanted to be proactive in how we responded with our drones.
as a tool arming officers with information.
We have heard the national message that law enforcement needs to do things differently.
Captain Don Redmond says their program is the first of its kind in law enforcement.
We had a drone program for about a year before we ever bought a drone. We reached out to the public. We reached out to the ACLU, and we developed policies.
Called Drone as First Responder, the Southern California agency prohibits random surveillance.
If we have no right to be there, then you're not going to see our drones there.
Staged on towering buildings, drones stand ready to respond. Like a self-driving car, they can fly to a scene with the push of a button.
25% of the time that we launch our drone, we do not have to send ground units.
Freeing officers to respond to urgent emergencies. The department shared footage of this 2019 call.
Of a man sitting at a bench in a taco shop with what looked to be a handgun.
Their drone arrived in 90 seconds, live streaming the situation in real time to officers.
As we watched him with the drone footage and the officers watched, they soon saw him take the handgun and light a cigarette, and we realized it was a lighter. So officers immediately made contact. No guns were drawn, no shooting.
Indiana is en route to the 11-8 at the Food for Less.
We get calls of people possibly armed, and with a powerful camera, I'm able to zoom in and be able to see if their hands are empty. I'm able to let the officers on the ground know. It is probably by far the best de-escalation tool I've ever seen in my career.
Granted special permissions from the FAA, they're closing in on 5,000 drone missions. Information from each call is made public online.
And the officers can't see him, but the drone pilot can. He threw his handgun inside the trash there.
The agency is also the first to live stream 911 calls directly to officers.
As opposed to getting the paraphrase of what the caller told the call taker, who then tells the dispatcher, who paraphrases it and gives the officers just a small amount of information.
Officers get information quickly and can make decisions based on what they see and hear minutes before arriving to a call.
So we truly see that this can be used to save lives.
I'm Amanda Brandeis reporting.
My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the material things, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious minute or moment.
Now, finally in our lineup today, the positive message and support for fathers finding more time to connect with their children during the pandemic. The pandemic has brought parenting front and center for so many adults. It's even caused some to reprioritize their life.
Before, it was always like, we're going to work, we have to take care of bills, we have to do this and that. And now it's, oh, what can we do together? So, for example, I play with my son in the backyard. We play badminton, we play soccer, we play baseball. We never used to do that before.
Now, Dr. Howard Young had one of those pandemic parenting moments when a teacher mentioned his son said, all dad does is work. So he went part-time doctor and full-time role model.
The other day, it was really cute. I was telling him I have to go to work, and he goes, and he runs to me and says, bye, Daddy. And then, I held him, I said, I love you. And he said, oh, by the way, I shed a tear for you when I said bye.
How about that? Dr. Young is sharing his experience through a series of PSAs created in part with Fathers Incorporated and the Ad Council. They show the positive results of dads simply just spending time with their children.
And at the end of the day, while COVID, it could mean so many things to so many different people, I think the silver lining in it is that in some weird and strange way, it has forced people to begin to think about family again.
The founder of Fathers Incorporated hopes to educate, motivate, and inspire fathers everywhere to stay connected with their children no matter the situation.
What's more dangerous, a man who isn't afraid of death or one who's found everything to live for?
Fathers Incorporated cites research that shows children who feel close to their dads are 2 times more likely to go to college or get a job after high school, 80% less likely to end up in jail, and 50% less likely to experience depression. Fatherhood.gov has resources and support groups for any dad out there. What will life be like in a year for people who are still suffering from the long-term health effects of COVID?
It's patients that have not been hospitalized, who tend to have more of a moderate to mild case of COVID, that actually are the ones that end up with longer term symptoms, that are smoldering symptoms.
Tomorrow, how a first of its kind long-term study is expected to answer questions about patients still suffering from symptoms.
This map shows the temperature pattern from the 17th of February through the 23rd. You can see nearly the entire country with below average temperatures. You have to go to South Florida to find anything remotely warm. That's the news at 5:30. The news starts again right now at 6.